This episode of A Conversation with John Conenna is sponsored by Generate. In today's digital age, staying ahead means harnessing the power of generative AI. Wondering how your small or medium-sized business can join this revolution? Look no further than Generate, your strategic partner for integrating cutting-edge generative AI solutions. We create personalized plans, adapting existing AI technologies to fit your specific business needs. Plus, our expert team provides essential training, empowering you to make the most of these innovative technologies. Interested in transforming your business with AI? Reach out to us at generateteam@gmail.com. That's generate, GENERAIT, team@gmail.com. And now, on with the episode.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Tonight is a possibility that it will be audio only. Tonight we have a goaltender during my era that played for the Chicago Blackhawks. And we're going to visit with a gentleman that was in Chicago and, of course, in the old Chicago Stadium during the years of Tony Esposito and, of course, Murray Bannerman in that 84-85 season, 85-86. And actually, this gentleman I'm talking about came up in 81-82 with the Chicago Blackhawks, and again played in that stadium in that era of when the Chicago Stadium would really rock the crowds. We are speaking tonight from the pride of Winnipeg, Manitoba. We're speaking to Warren Skorodenski. Warren, good evening. Thank you. I know we had a little bit of video technicality, but pleasure to have you on here tonight, and thanks for coming in. What's going on with you, young man?
Well, lately I've just been playing a little bit of golf and enjoying the Calgary Stampede and watching Kadeen Carey, who played for, I believe, the Bears for a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Playing in the CFL now with the Toronto Argonauts.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yes. Warren, I got to tell you, I mean, believe it or not, I'm born January 1st, 1960. So we have that year in common. I'm a couple months older than you. And I want you to know, I always wanted to be a goaltender. And I want you to know, Warren, that I thought it was going to be me because I played with a gentleman that you were in the same kind of a draft lottery with, a guy by the name of Bob Janicek. But I really wanted to come up those steps in the old Chicago Stadium behind number 35. But to go a little bit backwards, how does this passion for goaltending start with you?
Well, I wanted to play pro hockey since I was about 8 years old.
Wow.
And that was kind of the start of it. I wanted to play goal, and my mom started me skating, I don't know, when I was about 6 years old. And I was 8 at the time, and I wanted to play hockey, and I told my mother I wanted to play goal, and my mother said, well, I better send you to some kind of hockey school or something. And my first hockey school, my instructor was Turk Broda.
Oh, wow. Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah. So in 1968, I was at the Winnipeg Arena, and Turk Broda was the goalie coach.
And I got to ask you, Warren, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, you're 8 years old in 1968, and here you see this larger-than-life figure of that time. You know, basically, Broda, when he was playing, was the Ken Dryden of the day, correct?
Yes, he certainly was.
Yeah. How did you, I mean, was it always goaltending? Did you ever want to skate out, play the forward, play the defensive position? Was it always goaltending?
Well, I played goal when I was 8, 9, and 10, and then I got a little bit bored with it because I had a 3-year-old brother, and I used to play with guys 3 years older than me all the time. So playing with my own age was a little bit too easy or a little bit too slow for me.
Right.
So I decided I would, you didn't get enough action, I guess, was my point. And so I played out for 1 year, and I played forward and defense, and I came in second in the league scoring to a guy named Jim Dobson, who played a little bit in the NHL, and we grew up together. He scored 117 goals as an 11-year-old, and I came in second, and I scored 52.
Oh, wow. Okay. But your whole thing was you wanted to stop that little black biscuit instead of putting it in the net, right?
Yeah, I thrived on stopping pucks. Yeah.
Who was, I mean, like, okay, I mean, to have Broda as that instructor, and of course, I always tell my son, I have a 37-year-old son, I always say, oh my God, because we're both the same age, so you'll be able to relate to this. I would always ask my son, God, you should have saw the battles with Eddie Giacomo and Tony Esposito, or Dryden versus Cheevers. They were second up. But we can never compare eras. I understand that we can never compare eras, but when you looked at, say, a Turk Broda, I mean, back in the day, I mean, I know you probably didn't see Broda play, of course, because Broda was already retired. But was Broda a good goalie coach? I got to ask you that.
Well, I think any coaching was great back in 1968.
Yeah,
Anybody
right.
who would spend any time with you was fantastic. And from there, I had a fellow by the name of Gord Tummelson, who backed up Joe Daly and Ernie Wakely in the World Hockey.
Oh, wow.
And Gord Tummelson was their third goalie, and his father actually came out to the outdoor rink with me. He lived in the competing area next to us, and he came out to some of our practices to help me. So he might have seen something in me.
Yeah, exactly. Back in that time, growing up, that 8-year-old, now as you're progressing into the teenage years, because I mean, you start pretty, you're like 16, 17 years old when I see that you're getting into the, the league, being, that
Manitoba Junior.
Yeah, right. How was it for you? I mean, did you kind of always play with the older person, or was it always on the same? I mean, were you facing guys when you were, let's say, 15, 16, that were 22, 23 already?
No, but I did play in the Western Canada Hockey League. That was what the junior league was called in Western Canada.
Was that the WCHL, Warren? Was that the WCHL? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it used to be called the Western Canada Hockey League, and then they just called it the Western Hockey League after that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I played my first game there when I was 15. I was just basically a practice goalie, and they ended up dressing me for a game, and wouldn't you know it, the number one goalie got hurt in warm up, and they had to put me in.
Oh, wow.
And we were playing Brian Sutter's team, the Lethbridge Broncos, and so I kind of got thrown into the fire. I think I had one morning skate, and then dressed that night. The number one goalie, who was Lauren Mulliken, got hurt in warm up, and I had to play the game. And fortunately, we won that game. And so I played in the Western League before I even played Manitoba Junior.
And I gotta thank you. I heard that name, Mulliken, who actually wound up coaching the Chicago Blackhawks for a short time.
Yeah, Mooner
coached the Blackhawks for a short time. I remember that, Lauren Mulliken. Yeah, wow. So you go.
He was a good goalie.
Oh yeah, okay.
Good goalie.
He never played at the NHL level, though, did he?
I know he played in the International League.
Okay.
But I really don't know much about where his career went.
Right, exactly. I got to tell you, then of course you make the progression here, the WHL, the IHL, the AHL, and again here you're starting. Let me ask you this, Warren. Let's say from that 76 season, and then till you're with the New Brunswick Hawks, you're really starting to see the progression of how the game now is. The level starts to get a little bit harder and harder.
Yes. definitely.
Is that a good way to put it, Warren? Is that a good way to put it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
My first year pro was I played a couple games with the New Brunswick Hawks.
Okay.
Doug Carpenter was coaching then, but even Lou Gotti the year before.
Wow.
They sent me there. Murray Bannerman was the #1 goalie, and they were in the playoffs, so they sent me there to be the third goalie.
Right. And who was all three goalies there? You, Bannerman, and who else?
Boy, I'm trying to think of who the other goalie was. Could have been Vince Tremblay. I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was half Chicago, half Toronto.
And Warren, how was this? I mean, again, I was on teams at the amateur level, of course, never got to the level that you got to, but how was it when you're, vying for this job and you're going up with Bannerman and everybody else at that time? I mean, it's a stiff competition, but then there's also a friendship, right?
There's a camaraderie, and good honest challenge between, the two of you.
Right.
Because
Right, exactly.
You both work hard and you both want the team to win, and
Sure.
and that, but it was a real eye opener for me after playing a couple games with the New Brunswick Hawks to get demoted to the International League. Was the first time I'd ever been cut.
Right. Wow. And I mean, that is just amazing. And again, in these leagues, of course, were there always goaltending coaches at that time?
No. There weren't, and everybody kind of had their opinion on how they wanted you to play. And I remember one scout in Chicago telling me that I was playing too much like Tony Esposito.
The sprawling and the diving and the going and the butterfly.
Yeah, and I guess I grew up thinking you did whatever you had to stop a puck,
right?
No matter what.
Exactly. It's funny you bring that up, and I hope you don't mind this. And thank you for bringing up you being, of course, the professional goalie, me being the amateur. Esposito, Tony, and his brother Phil had a book out. We could teach you to play hockey. I'll never forget the book. And of course, he was talking about pad stacks, the V, how he kept it down, how you had to put the pads out to the sides and everything else. So as much as everybody thought that this flopping around that he did wasn't a style, it really was. I mean, that was his way of doing it, where then you would see like a Gilles Villemure, who was an angle goalie, cutting down angles, where now we look at that styles now and we say, God, okay, could they have played in the NHL today? And my answer is, could a goalie played in your era with the equipment that you had? Could a goalie today play in your era? And my answer is no all the time. But that's amazing how you brought that up, that, you found a way to stop the puck however you had to stop it. Right.
And the puck hurt when it hit you.
Right. Because you were still playing with those old pads and the GM Coopers and everything else. Right. Exactly. I got to ask you, I want to move forward a little bit. Do you remember that first time coming to Chicago?
Yes, I do. I remember the cab ride from the airport to the Bismarck Hotel.
Wow.
And it was a very large black gentleman.
Okay.
And he was so big that the front seat, the bench kind of bent back.
Right.
Him leaning over with his arms so he could see the
right
to you in the back. And the conversation we had was, he said, boy, I caught me a squirrel last night, and he said it was sure good.
Oh, jeez. You had to look like, I'm like, what kind of a town is this? Yeah.
He said, I got a trap outside my window.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. That couldn't have sit too well with you.
Oh, I was just hoping I made it downtown and got to the hotel.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember then, was it the next day you went to the Chicago Stadium?
Yeah, it would have been the next day. We would have had to report for training camp and medicals, physicals, and all that.
So now you remember Murray was there, and of course the legendary number 35, right?
Yeah, and Mike Visor.
Mike Visor, yes. Yeah, Mike, of course, who backed up Tony for about 5 years in the mid-70s. Yeah, with another gentleman, Mike, who became a scout, Michel Dumas.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. How was it when you walk into this locker room and you start to see some of the players there? I think at that time it was Lysiak, Terry Ruskowski, Doug Wilson was on that team, and of course Esposito. Do you remember your first conversation with Esposito?
Can't think of it off the top of my head, but I do remember being on the ice, and back then the players just skated the length of the ice and took a shot on the goalie for warm-up.
Right.
And that kind of went on going both ways. And we'd have 4 goalies, and then we'd end up scrimmaging after that. And Stan Mikita came down, and he came across hit the top of the circle, cut across the hash marks, and I shuffled across with him, and he slipped this nice smooth wrist shot right through my legs. And he skated around behind the net, and guys are still shooting, and I finally make eye contact with him, and he says, "You're not playing with kids anymore."
It was Warren. Was Mikita retired already?
He's still playing in '79.
So you come up in the training camp in '79.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 81, 82. Mike, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
So yes, Stan was on the 79-80 team. Yes.
Yeah, I signed as an underage junior out of Calgary, and then I went to training camp, and then I went back and played my last year of junior.
Got it. So I mean, even Mikita, who was pushing 40 years old at that time, he still had to move.
Yeah. So years and years after, I ended up going to Finland and Sweden with the Blackhawk alumni. So we had a long plane flight, and I sat with Stan for a bit, and I said, "Stan, do you remember saying that to me?" And I had to explain it to him again, and I said, "Do you remember why you said that to me?" And he said, "I don't know." He says, "A veteran must have said that to me when I was a rookie."
Wow.
So he was just passing that on to
passing it on, right? Pass that. But I mean, to come into that building, that team, and of course to see somebody like him on a cliff at that time, even Coral was still playing. I mean,
yeah, all those guys, Cliff Coral, Keith Magnuson,
yeah,
Reggie Kerr,
right, unbelievable.
Great people.
I have to ask you, as the interviewer, you walk into that you're as the underage junior, you're in this building. Was the shot quality totally different than what you saw with the Flint Generals in the New Brunswick?
Well, I'd actually been in the Chicago dressing room when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I grew up in Winnipeg, and of course Bobby Hull was there, and Bobby Hull Jr.
Right.
Was a year younger than me, and just the way the age groups worked out, his team was going to go to Chicago to play in a tournament, and they would have been younger than the teams they were playing.
Right.
So they picked up 3 players from my team and to go with them. So we actually traveled on the plane with the Winnipeg Jets, because I think they must have been playing the Chicago Cougars then.
In the old WHA.
Yeah.
The World Hockey League. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Joanne Hall was with us, and she got us into the or Bobby did, or through Dennis, probably through Dennis, I would imagine. We got to go see a Philadelphia game, and then and that reminded me of your interview with Schultz.
Yeah. Oh God, what a character that guy was. Yeah, right.
So Dennis Hall came down the wing, and he let the slap shot rep.
Oh.
And it was high over the net, and you could hear it just rattling all the way around.
Oh, God. Yeah, Warren, I have to ask you, as a goaltender, does it almost make when you see a shot from like a Dennis Hall or a Bobby? Yeah, I would have thought I would have probably wanted to quit as a goaltender, you know.
Well, I was 12 years old in a place called River Heights Community Center in Winnipeg, and Joe Daly and Ernie Wakely, they would never practice at practice right there. So I was just 12 years old, and some of the guys, I knew Terry Miller. I think he grew up in the north end of Winnipeg too. He asked me if I would stay and for the practice. So a couple of times they would practice after our
Right.
12-year-old team practice, and one day Mike Ford took a slap shot from center ice, and he hit me in the chest and just black and blue shoulder and all that.
Jeez.
My coach finally said, "That's enough."
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that had you felt that one for sure.
That was just cloth arm pads back then.
Yeah. Remember though? I remember, and you maybe would stuff them with some kind of like rubber foam or something to get a little bit extra protection and everything else.
Anyway, the first time I was in the Chicago dressing room was when I was 12 years old, and I got to go around and get autographs of Tony and all the guys. And yes, I was in awe.
And you know what? When you talk 1972, those were Blackhawk teams that were basically games away from winning Stanley Cups. Those were great Chicago teams with guys like Makita, Pappen, Martin, Dennis and Bobby and Stapleton and White and Esposito, Gary Smith, all those guys. I remember it like it was yesterday because, we're the same age. Do you remember, where did you play that first game in 1981-82? Was it on the road or was at the stadium?
No, it was at the Chicago Stadium. I got called up to play that game against Hartford, I believe. And I remember during the anthem, it was so loud in there, my ears were cracking it.
Well, and that was the old stadium where everybody was on top of you, for sure. Why were you brought up at that time? Was Bannerman or Tony hurt? I
think they were just in a little bit of a slump.
Gotcha.
And Maggie and Cliff Coral wanted to shake things up a little. I always thought that maybe it was the way I played goal, or the guys always seemed to try harder.
Yeah, right. Okay, here's this new goaltender. Let's make him look good. Let's protect him a little bit. Right, exactly. Sure.
So anyway, Pierre LaRue scored 3 goals on me that night.
The old, oh God, wow.
Yeah, and after the game, I took my gear off, and we had lost by a goal, and I was kind of pouting, and Tony was my backup that night. They sat Bannerman out, and Tony tapped me on the leg, and he says, "It's okay, Skoro." He says, "He scored more than that on me."
That was, you talk about a good feel from Tony. That had to be great. I guess coming from this veteran goaltender.
Yeah. And I've got another story about Doug Wilson. I knew who Doug Wilson was. My brother played hockey with him in Winnipeg.
Wow. And what's Wilson remembered you from those days too?
Well, he remembered my brother.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. My brother was a defenseman, and he was actually pretty good.
Wow, I can't imagine. Did he play at any same kind of levels as you before going? No.
He just played organized hockey, and then he became a bus driver. In the end, he became a bus driver. Before that, he worked at Flyer Industries, making buses. He refereed hockey.
Sure.
He was the first referee to ever throw me out of a game.
Okay, thanks, brother. Yeah. I have to ask you, so after you come up for that game, a couple of seasons, are you back at the training camps in 81, 82, and 82 and 83, and 83 and 84? Yep. Are you back every year for those training camps, vying to make the team, right?
Yeah.
And they kept going with, of course, Bannerman and Esposito at that time, right?
Yeah, and then we had well, Janicek was there, and then there was Darren Pang
Darren Pang, yeah.
and Jim Ralph.
Jim Ralph, the comedian, now on the circuit.
So we had many training camps together. We had lots of fun.
Right, right. Esposito retires in 83, 84. Well, that's his last year in Chicago in 83, 84. And now Murray Bannerman now is the spotlight of the Chicago goaltender. But then again, the gentleman now that's going to take the role with Mr. Bannerman is a guy by the name of Warren Skorodenski, 1984-85. Can you take us through that camp and who was in camp just because Esposito had retired?
Well, like I said, there was Panger and there was Jimmy Ralph, Bob Janicek, myself. I know later on there was another fellow named Chris Clifford.
Chris Clifford, yes.
That was at training camp with us. Boy, I can't really think of any other goalies that were.
Well, you mentioned 6 of them. So was that? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of goalies there. Was that camp for you where you knew, okay, I got to get this now. This veteran goalie is gone. This is my chance. Did you go in there with that attitude?
Well, I knew that there was a job there, and it was up for grabs. Whoever, I had just as good a chance as the next guy there.
When did you who gives you the word now that, okay, come October 18th, we're taking Bannerman and Skorodenski? How do you get the word, if you could tell our audience?
Well, Foley called me in the office, and he said, Skoro, he says, you're going to play the first half of the year, and Ralph's going to play the second half of the year.
Mm.
And that was the end of the conversation.
Right. Okay.
And he told Jimmy Ralph that he was going to play the second half. And I guess I assumed that I played well enough that Jimmy never got a chance.
Yeah, because you got into 27 games that year.
And I missed, I don't know, a month and a half to 2 months with a torn groin that I did in 81, 82 in New Brunswick.
Okay. Yeah.
I injured it in a game against Montreal.
I mean, like I said, you get into 27 games that year. That's, and my friend, you have a winning record of 11 wins, 9 losses, and 3 ties. Not too shabby for a guy coming up at 25 years old and being the backup and giving, I thought, Bannerman enough rest. If you're in 27 games, I think the schedule then was possibly 72. And you are on the playoff roster when you guys, I think, was that year's with Edmonton? Because, yeah.
Yeah, we set the record for most goals scored in a semifinal or quarterfinal, semifinal series, I think.
Right,
and
right.
It was just broken a few years ago.
Yeah, that was Warren. You said it. That was a crazy series. Indeed, that was a crazy series. What's your fun?
Can I ask you? Do you remember when Savard killed that penalty? He skated around the ice against Edmonton, dragging the puck. He had killed almost most of the penalty.
Amazing. We call it. My son and I and a couple other of our friends, we call it. The Denny goal in the stadium. And what I mean, you talk about where he got the name for the legendary announcer here in Chicago, Pat Foley. Savoir faire is everywhere. Yeah, it was. Yeah. What was fun? Goosebumps. My favorite line of our podcast. When to see that and I go, and you're playing against, Gretzky, Curry, Messier, Anderson, and he's dazzling those guys. Incredible. Warren, what's your take on that year with the Blackhawks? Because I mean, like I said, you had a winning record. You were rock solid. I thought you played every game like it was your last. I mean, when you got the call, like say to play in a game, what's the was there a goalie coach then in Chicago or no? No. Okay.
No. Dumas was there. He would talk to you, but he wouldn't tell it. He wouldn't try to change your game at all.
Right. Right.
You know, there were things we worked on in practice. You know, playing the puck and setting it up for your defense. You know, things like that you know, incorporated into the team.
Was and Esposito didn't come back to help out after that year, no, did he?
No.
No, because I know he kind of left on bad terms. I mean, I don't know what the terms were. I think he wanted to play one more season, and the Blackhawks weren't going to sign him. I mean, Tony was already up in age. But
Right.
how did you feel? I mean, you know, knowing that, hey, you know, I got a chance to play every third. Basically, this averages out to you're playing every third or fourth game, correct?
Yeah, until I got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, the level of that first season. I mean, how do I want to put this, Warren? The stresses of being now this NHL goaltender. Was there a lot of pressure?
Yeah, I think the pressure that I put all the pressure on myself, like most goalies.
Right.
You don't need anyone else putting the pressure on you because you put enough on yourself already.
You put enough on yourself, exactly right. And you know, the biggest thing about being a goaltender is, let's say you get shelled one night and you got to come back the next night on a road trip game. You're on a road. Your mindset has to be clear and focused for that next night. And you got to get over, let's say, if you gave up 6 and you lose 6-3, and you know maybe out of the 6 you could have had 4. Were you able to control your mindset pretty well as a goaltender?
Well, I had even longer than a game or two to stew about it, you know, because, you know, I very, very rarely played 2 games in a row.
Right.
And unless Bannerman was hurt, then I would play a couple in a row. But you know, it's funny how many players that I know had contract disputes with Bulford, and I was no different.
Sure, right, exactly.
I went to salary arbitration, and Pulley didn't like that. So the following year, I played the 1 game in Montreal, their home opener, and I think I was kind of set up to lose. Bannerman had lost in Quebec, and then the next game was in Montreal, and it was their home opener. And that gave Pulley reason to send me down, and he brought Bob Solvay.
Oh, yeah, that was now we're talking 85, 86, correct?
Yeah, so Pulley didn't even realize that I was playing out my option here because I had Alan Eagleson for 2 weeks as a player agent, and he told Pulley that I would sign this contract for less money than what I was making, and I guess Pulley took his word that he would send it. I would sign it, and I told Eagleson not even to send the contract, that I was going to play out my option.
Right.
And I guess he didn't relay that to Pulley, I guess.
Just like everything else that his Eagleson has done in life, right? Yeah, I mean, we won't get into that. That's a story for another podcast, what he's done to so many.
Back then it was not fashionable to go to salary arbitration.
Got it. You do come back a little bit in you came back for a few games though in 86, 87.
Yeah, they when guys got hurt, they still called me back.
Yeah. How does it end with Chicago, meaning where now you're not part of the Blackhawk organization? Because I know now you go back and back it basically to you go to the Oilers, you know, for a little bit.
Yes, I ended up signing with Edmonton. I got a shutout at the Chicago Stadium. I can't remember the exact date of it, but Ron Lowe was the goaltender for New Jersey, and I ended up getting a shutout that game, and Ron Lowe remembered that, and he was the one that was pulling for Edmonton to sign me.
Oh wow, Lowe was.
Ron Lowe, yeah.
Wow, I mean, and again, a goaltender who started in the Toronto organization, I think, right after the Jacques Plante years. So what a compliment to you by Mr. Lowe. Yeah. How did you feel about going to Edmonton, Warren?
It was exciting. I knew they were pretty good at telling you why you were there. I was there basically just as a playing the minors. You're the third goalie, and you're the guy that we're going to call up if someone's hurt or needs a rest.
Who were the goalies that time in Edmonton while you were kind of going back and forth in the minors there?
Fear originally.
Oh, wow.
So I backed up Fear a little bit, and we played junior against each other. And
Andy Moog?
Well, I think he might have been there a little bit. And then I backed up Billy Ranford as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, another goaltender that had a Stanley Cup ring with them, like in 91 or something, 92 when they played Boston. I mean, what a career you had here, because, and again, everywhere you went, Warren, I mean, I'm looking at the number of games. If it was the NHL, the AHL, the International League, even the Canadian national team, 22, 41 games there. I mean, you kept at it even till the end, let's say in 90, 91. Was your hope still, Warren, to get back to the NHL?
I knew it was over. I could have gone back and played in the minors. I played a couple games with Team Canada again at the start of their season, and they had played the Oilers farm team, and I don't know. I gave up 2 goals or something in 2 games, or 3 goals, 2 games, or something like that, and I just had enough.
Yeah, I mean,
I had a young family, and it was time to settle down.
Is 90, 91 the last thing for you?
Yeah, that was the last 2 games I played of any importance, I guess.
Right. And then you decided to move on. What did you do after that? And of course, I want to get to what you're doing now before I get into a thing of 5 questions I have for you, because I truly am enjoying this. And I want to just stop for 1 second. We are visiting with the ex-Chicago Blackhawk, Warren Skorodenski, who had a career here in Chicago during the years of Mr. Esposito, Murray Bannerman, Warren himself, and of course went on also to play for the Edmonton Oilers, a goaltender that I used to call, he's going to battle you to the end. I loved your style, Warren. I mean, it was day in and day out, night in and night out. You were just, I thought there was a consistency with you, almost like that fighter that, okay, we got to get through this, all the time. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That style. Warren, what did you do after, the career after 91?
I started an art publishing company with my wife in Calgary, Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had been art collectors before, and we knew a few artists. So we signed a couple of artists to contracts, and then what we did was publish and distribute their originals and limited edition artwork.
Oh, wow.
Through the art galleries.
And this was right after the hockey, Warren?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. And now, is it still something you do now?
No, I'm retired now, and we've moved on from the business, and just living in Trochu, Alberta, playing some golf.
Okay, well, you deserve to. I mean, you've had a long career, but you're originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba, correct?
Right.
And then where you live now. Were you ever, Warren, involved in any hockey after you retired as a coach or anything?
I did coach my kids. My son became a goalie, and then at the age of 17, my wife came to me, and my one daughter, who was 17 at the time, she had talked to my wife, and my wife came to me and said, your daughter Stephanie wants to play hockey. I said, oh, great. She'd never shown any interest in skating because her feet hurt.
Right.
And all that. And she says, that's not all. She says, she wants to play goal, and you have to be the coach.
Oh, of course. Hey, no better coach than Warren Skorodenski for his daughter. Warren, yeah, I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you coming on. Like it says, I want to tell our audience, because I'm going to take some pictures of this before we go off. Warren is sitting in a den in an office, because if I can't get this to go on a video side, it'll be coming out on. Warren, are you used to watching or listening to podcasts on Spotify?
I do occasionally.
Yeah, because this will come out on Spotify, and pictures of it will come out on YouTube. We'll do segments of it. But I just want everybody to know Warren is sitting in a beautiful chair with one of the masks that he had, that skull mask that we all remember. And of course, the Indian head jersey is to his left, the Blackhawk jersey, where he wore number 1 before they retired Glenn Hall's number. And behind him is a beautiful painting of Warren. Warren, who did that painting behind you? I love it. I want to buy it from you. So you're going to have to sell it to me.
I did it. I'm still working on it.
Okay, well, listen, when you finish it, it's mine. So, all right, we're going to play a game of 5 questions, and I'm going to let you go. Okay? Because this has been fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Okay, Warren, besides, I know you mentioned Turk Broda, the veteran goalie who was your first kind of instructor. Who was that early mentor that you still talk about to this day? Mentor or mentors?
Well, when I played in the minors, I played with Mario Lassard, and Gene Ubriaco was the coach.
I interviewed Gene. You got to watch that one.
Ubi.
Yeah, Ubi. Ubi's here in Chicago with the Wolves. And he's still he's the president of operations. And I'll have to send you his, I just did him a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic gentleman.
Oh, outstanding.
Yeah, Ubi is the best. Yeah.
I could tell you some fun stories about.
We might have to do that in a part 2, for sure. All right, I got to ask you a question.
So I had the goalies that influenced me. So Rogie Vachon, who was, him and Esposito were my 2 favorites.
Yeah.
And I guess Bernie Pront was too. So Rogie came and worked with me and Mario.
Oh, wow.
He was with LA, and I was on loan to Ubi, and so was Mario. He was on loan to the Birmingham South Stars that
wow.
Coaching,
yeah, wow, fantastic stuff. Wow.
And then I had Bernie Pront come. I was playing in the minors with Pelly Lindbergh.
Oh, wow. You talk about a guy's life who got cut too short. Yeah, Pelly Lindbergh. Yeah.
I know, and I think he played his last game against us.
Yeah.
We saw where his accident was.
Oh.
Spent the night in Philadelphia when they went to, I think, New York to play the next.
Yeah, tragic.
Night, and came back and died that night.
That was a tragic. I remember that. Yeah. Mike Keenan was the
big drinker. He would hardly drink at all.
Yeah.
But that kind of surprised me.
He had lost control of that car. Yeah, Well, let me go to a little bit of a lighter side. What's your favorite movie that you could watch 200 times and not get bored?
Oh my God.
One or two, Warren.
Well, Slapshot.
Okay. Seems to be the favorite on my podcast.
Because I played with Steve Carlson, played against Jeff Carlson.
Oh, God.
I played against when I played in Birmingham, he was playing for Indianapolis.
Those were the 3 brothers when they say putting on the foil.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah.
And in some of the funny things that Steve Carlson would do in the dressing room, he did something funny. Well, I'll tell you what he did to me. So I would come in after warm up, and I would take my upper gear off. I would go and either have a coffee or a Coke, and I'd go sit out in the hallway and have a cigarette.
Okay.
And then back in the dressing room when I was done, the coach would come in and he would start doing his spiel. You'll have to ask Ubi about this.
Okay.
He remembers it. And Steve Carlson had taken my mask in the top of my skull and a couple rolls of tape and just wrapped it encased like a mummy.
Oh, wow.
He kept it rolling. Well, I get back in the dressing room. This is pre-game warm-up, right? And so I get in there and I get my arm pads on and I get my sweater on and I go to grab my mask and my gloves above my head. And here it's all, I start unraveling the tape. And Ubi says, okay, guys, let's go. And here I am trying to unravel my mask. Well, all the guys were out on the ice.
Oh, Jesus.
Because back then the starting lineup, they were just starting that, would go on the ice, everybody else went to the bench, they do the anthem and then drop the puck.
Right.
Well, while the anthem is going on, I'm on the outside of the glass waiting to get on the ice. That's how late I was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure Ubriaco's looking for you. Where's Skorodenski? Yeah.
And the guys on the bench are just pissing themselves.
Oh my God, I can imagine. What a classic moment. What is the favorite Warren Skorodenski meal, or even back then, that meal that you could eat time and time again? What's that Warren Skorodenski? Is it a steak? Is it a pizza? What is it?
Well, it was pasta.
It was what, sir?
Pasta. I always had
pasta. Okay.
Yeah, I always had spaghetti, and then I'd have chicken, or I'd have some kind of steak.
Nice. So because that was the go-to for Warren. No, well, you're making this Italian hungry over here. So. All right, number 4. I can only give me one or two, but who are your maybe top 3 goalies, your favorite goalies growing up?
Oh, in no particular order.
No.
Vashon, Perron, and Tony.
Yeah. And I got to ask you, thank you for mentioning Tony, because Tony was my idol growing up, of course, being the Chicago Blackhawk fan. To see him in the same locker room as you, and you watched this guy growing up, were you in awe of him?
Oh, I sure was. And it was even more special that he was my backup the first game in the NHL I ever played.
I mean, what a thing. I mean, you did. I mean, yeah. And again, Warren, we lost him, of course, tragically a couple of years ago to this pancreatic cancer. But yeah. I tell you, I would have loved to have been Warren Skorodenski to see Tony Esposito. I mean, that is what a tribute you gave to him, and how nice he was to you. All right, I got 2 questions to question 5, and then I'm going to let you go. All right, you're the goalie. Who are your top 5 guys in front of you? Who's your left wing? Who's your center? Who's your right wing? Who are your 2 defensemen? But Warren Skorodenski is the goalie. We got 2 minutes left. Who's Warren putting on the ice? Because Warren is the player coach. Who's his center? Who's his left wing? Who's his right wing? And who's his 2 defensemen?
Is this my Wickers team, or is this people that I played with?
Yeah, the team, the Warren Skorodenski dream team.
Oh my God.
5 guys. I can't give any more chances.
Let's go with Bobby Orr and Brad Park on defense.
Okay.
And there's many more that are deserving.
Exactly. No one's going to get offended there.
My friend Guy Lapointe probably won't be happy that I didn't.
What a player in Montreal, number 5, yeah.
But I'd have to say left wing would be Bobby Hull.
Okay.
Center would probably be Gretzky.
All right.
And let's go with Bob Probert.
Okay, you're putting Proby out there on the right side.
Yeah.
a little bit of muscle there to protect Gretzky and Bobby.
We played some charity games together, and honest to God, he was the salt of the earth.
Yeah.
The only other person I can think of that was as genuine as him would have been Johnny Bauer.
Oh wow, Johnny Bauer, yeah, of course. But you're the goal. Yeah.
Just salt of the earth.
Oh sure, but I'll tell you, can you imagine Gretzky and Bobby Hull together? Bobby would have had 200 goals. With all that passing. All right, last thing I got to ask you because I go and this was a thrill for me tonight, but I got to ask you part 2 of that question. What is Warren Skorodenski's greatest memory of the Chicago Stadium? Is it a game? Is it a save you made? Is it the crowd noise? What was it? Because you were a fan favorite, Warren.
I think it's the crowd noise.
Yeah.
Walking up those steps that Tony had walked up so many years.
Jesus.
And hearing the fans and standing in the goal during the anthem, and half the time you couldn't even hear the anthem.
Yeah, that's amazing because I used to say to myself, God, can the players hear this? And my dad would say to me, are you nuts? We can't hear ourselves talk. Sure, they're hearing this,
Yeah.
It was amazing.
As a goalie, you have to get focused on the job at hand.
Yeah.
And after a while, that just becomes all outer.
Yeah, sure. Well, listen, Warren, I don't know how to thank you, and I want to thank our friend Sebastian Chaputis for getting me to get you on here. And like I says, if the video part of this is not going to come out, we have the audio part, which will go on Spotify. I hope to put this together with pictures on YouTube of this. I'm going to see if I can. I'm taking some pictures right now that I'm going to have because I loved your background tonight. But I will, if we do put it on YouTube, I'll have pictures as we go along with the audio of you and, of course, things that we talked about. But it will definitely go on Spotify in the coming weeks. I just want to say thank you because for me, I remembered you. And when Sebastian Chaputis told me that I think I can get Warren for you, I go, call him up right now, Warren. I truly thank you for tonight. And we will do another one. And I'm glad I got to know you here tonight. And great memories of your career and your time here in Chicago and as a hockey player.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And next time this is actually upstairs in my house, and I call it the pool room. And I've got hockey memorabilia.
Beautiful.
All around. I did a show, so I still haven't put some of the masks back up.
This is fantastic. Yeah, I just took some shots of the skull mask yourself and that. So this will come out on social media in about a week. And of course, I'll contact you to tell you when it does come out. Warren, I thank you again. Good night. And let's keep in touch, my new friend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Warren. Good night.
All right. Good night. Talk to you.
On sale now at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble stores. The Twins, A Journey of a Lifetime. The brothers and authors Tony and Carl Ruzicka take us through a journey of Chicago sports history and their memories of a bygone era. Purchase your copy today.